As part of our course, we have to look at the translation of a function and be able to generate a new equation from the original equation. Now, before I go into showing you how to apply the formulas at the top of the page, I'm going to remind you what translation actually is. I'm going to do it in the context of a quadratic equation because recently we have done completing the square. So what we have here, we are going to look at the quadratic y equals x squared, and what we're going to do is we're going to translate this quadratic 3 to the right and 2 up, because this is what this translation means. It means we're going to translate it 3 in the x direction, positive x direction, and then we're going to translate it 2 going up vertically. Now, translation, reminding you what this is a sliding motion. You don't twist the original equation or shape, you literally slide it. So as you can see, this quadratic is moving in the x direction by +3, a value of +3. And when it gets to the +3, it then has to shift in the y direction upwards by a value of +2 until it reaches this particular point here. Once it's done that, we can label the vertex of that point, which is 3, 2, and consequently we know from our previous work on completing the square that the equation of that is y is equal to x minus 3 all squared plus 2. So, but normally we work from the equation to the graph. Now, what we're going to look at here is being able to derive this equation by purely looking at the information within the question. So what we do now is we're going to go back to the very beginning and we're going to write down what the translation was. Now, the translation that we were given in the example above is equal to 3, 2. The original function that we were given was y is equal to x squared. So how do we generate the new equation? It's very simple. We create an empty bracket where the x was, and then we put the x back in. We then look at this number in the x position. So the x position is associated with the x algebraic value. But when we slide it into this bracket, we have to remember to change the sign. So when we slide that 3 into the bracket, we have to remember to change the sign. And that's what this formula here says. Here's the translation A, and when we slide it into the bracket, it becomes minus A. But the y direction translation, +2, we put it on the outside of the bracket, and it keeps its original sign of +2. And that's all you have to do. Let's look at another function. You can pause the video, you can copy that down. Let's look at a different translation, a different function, and apply the formula again and see how we go. So this time we're going to look at the translation, let's say 5 minus 5, 3. And the function, the original function we're going to look at is going to be y is equal to 3x, let's make it 8x, 8x minus 7. Now, if we go back to the original formula, the translation is a comma b. The original function is y equals f of x. The original function is y is equal to f of x. And the newly translated function is wherever you see where the x is, you put an empty bracket, and inside that empty bracket you replace the x, but then you look at the translation number, and when you move it inside the bracket for the x direction translation number, you change the sign. And the y direction translation number keeps its sign and is written outside. So in the context of this problem here, where is the x? Well, there's the x. What do we do with that x? We replace it with a slightly larger empty bracket, and then everything else is written down as per normal. So where we had 8x minus 7, we've now got 8 empty bracket minus 7. Inside that empty bracket, we put the x back. And then we look at the translation in the x direction, and we can see it's a minus 5. So when we slide it into the empty bracket, we change its sign. That's what you've got to remember. You change its sign. This number here is the sliding motion in the y direction. It keeps its sign, so it remains as a plus 3. And then we do a tidy up. So it's 8 bracket x plus 5, minus 7 plus 3 is minus 4. And then if you want to complete the tidy up, you can just expand the brackets out and then do the final tidy up. So the newly transformed equation is 8x plus 36. Okay, we go over the page, and what we have here over the page is 5 questions. But just to get you going, I'm going to do question 1 for you. I'm going to leave the other 4 for you to complete for homework. So what we have here is we've got the original function, which is y is equal to x cubed. We've got the translation, and the translation is equal to 2, 3. We're now going to get the new function which is generated after we apply this sliding motion 2 to the right and 3 up. So what do? We replace the x by an empty bracket. Inside that empty bracket, we put an x, and then we go and look at what the sliding motion in the x direction is. It was a plus 2, but when we move it into the bracket, we've got to remember to change the sign. So we've now completed that part of the problem. We've now got this plus 3 at the end, and we just literally add it at the very end, and the sign remains the same. So what you've got to do now is you've got to complete questions 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I think you have to be in contact with each other and peer assess. Okay, good luck with that work.